The Olympic Games has always been a beacon of hope, unity, and excellence, a stage where the world's best athletes come together to compete and showcase the pinnacle of human achievement. But the Paris 2024 Olympics, well, they turned out to be something entirely different. What was supposed to be a celebration of sportsmanship and international cooperation ended up as a chaotic mess that left everyone asking, what the hell happened? Today we are diving into the controversies, failures, and downright absurdities that made the Paris Olympics a global joke. We'll explore everything from the bizarre opening ceremony to the awful conditions faced by the athletes, and even the political overtones that overshadowed the entire event. But before we get into it, if you're new here, welcome to Just My Thoughts, where I share my simple takes on everything from hot topics to finance, movies, and, well, everything in between. If you enjoy content like this, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. And hey, don't just take my word for it, let's hear your thoughts in the comments below. Whether you agree, disagree, or think I missed something, I'm all for a good debate. Let's not create an echo chamber here. Different opinions are what push us closer to the truth, so let's dive in. Section 1. Athlete conditions and safety concerns. Now let's talk about the athletes, because after all, they are the ones that make the Olympics what it is. But in Paris, they were treated to accommodations that were, to put it mildly, subpar. The organisers proudly boasted about the eco-friendly cardboard beds provided in the Olympic Village, claiming that they were a sustainable choice. But while sustainability is great, no one's arguing that, the execution here was, well, questionable. These beds quickly became the subject of ridicule online, with many athletes posting videos of themselves testing out the flimsy structures, and it wasn't just the beds, the entire living situation was less than ideal. Reports of cramped rooms, no air conditioning, and poor quality food were rampant. For an event that's supposed to be a celebration of the world's best athletes, the accommodations were anything but world class. But the real kicker, the safety concerns. Now throughout the games, athletes reported numerous incidents of theft, harassment, and even physical assaults. Other athletes also reported having their rooms broken into and valuables taken. Some even chose to stay in hotels outside of the Olympic Village just to feel safer. And it wasn't just the athletes, coaches and the team staff were also targeted. These incidents added an extra layer of stress and anxiety to an already challenging competition. As you can imagine, the athletes were not happy. Many took to social media to voice their frustrations, with some even calling out the International Olympic Committee for failing to provide adequate security. It's one thing to compete at the highest level of sport, but it's another to do so while worrying about your personal safety and whether your belongings will be stolen while you're out competing. Section 2. The political overtones. But as if the logistical and safety issues wasn't enough, the Paris Olympics were also mired in political controversy. The Olympics are supposed to be a neutral ground where politics take a backseat to athleticism, but that was far from the case this time around. One of the most glaring issues was the enforcement of Rule 50, which restricts athletes from making political, religious, or racial demonstrations during the game. While this rule is meant to maintain the focus on sports, it quickly became a flashpoint for criticism. For example, athletes were reportedly forced to cover up religious symbols such as crosses and hijabs to comply with the rule. This led to widespread accusations of hypocrisy, especially considering the overtly political undertones of the opening ceremony itself, which we'll get onto later. And let's not forget about the French government's decision to clean up Paris in preparation for the Games. In the months leading up to the Olympics, thousands of homeless people were forcibly relocated from the city to make way for tourists and ensure that the city's image remained pristine. This move was widely condemned as a gross violation of human rights, with critics arguing that it prioritized aesthetics over the welfare of vulnerable populations. The irony here is hard to miss. An event that's supposed to symbolize global unity and peace was marred by policies that did the exact opposite, further highlighting the growing divide between the rich and poor, the powerful and the powerless. All of this played out against the backdrop of increasing global tensions, with the Paris Olympics becoming a reflection of the world's fractured state. From protests over which countries were allowed to participate, to disputes over the treatment of marginalized groups, the Games were less about sport and more about the political battles being fought behind the scenes. Section 3. The Steven van de Velde controversy. If you thought the controversy stopped there, think again. Perhaps one of the most shocking and disturbing aspects of the Paris Olympics was the decision to allow Steven van de Velde, a Dutch volleyball player and convicted child to compete in the Games. Back in 2016, van de Velde was convicted of assaulting a 12-year-old girl after flying to the UK to meet her in person. He gave her alcohol, assaulted her numerous times, and was subsequently sentenced to 4 years in prison. At the time, many believed that his athletic career was over, as it should have been. But after just 13 months after being sentenced, Van der Velde was released and, shockingly, reinstated to the Dutch Olympic team for the Paris Games. This raises a serious question. Why is someone with such a horrific criminal background being allowed to compete on the world stage, while so many others are held to much stricter standards? The IOC claims to uphold values of integrity and fairness, yet they have preferential treatment to a convicted rapist. This is a direct contradiction of the Olympic spirit and has understandably sparked outrage among athletes, fans, and the general public. Social media once again exploded, with many calling out the blatant double standards. How can the IOC enforce Rule 50 so strictly on athletes expressing political or religious views, but turn a blind eye to a criminal competing in the games? It's a question that remains unanswered. Allowing someone like Van der Velde to participate not only tarnishes the reputation of the games, but also undermines the safety and integrity of the Olympic community. Section 4. The environmental and logistical failures. Now, if you thought the political issues were bad, wait until you hear about the environmental and logistical nightmares that plagued the Paris Olympics. Take, for instance, the much-hyped plan to host swimming events in the Seine River. The idea was to showcase Paris as an eco-friendly, modern city, but there was just one problem. The Seine is, quite frankly, filthy. Despite promises to clean up the river in time for the games, high level of E. coli bacteria were still detected in the water just days before the events were set to take place. The men's triathlon, which was supposed to be a highlight of the games, had to be postponed due to the unsafe water conditions. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience, this was a major embarrassment for the organisers, who had touted the event as a symbol of Paris's environmental ambitions. And it wasn't just the Seine. The entire logistics of the game seemed to be a mess. Events were delayed, athletes complained about inadequate transportation, and spectators who paid thousands of euros for tickets were left disappointed by the disorganisation. These environmental and logistical failures didn't just hurt the image of the Paris Olympics, they also damaged the public perception of the event as a whole. For many, these issues were emblematic of a larger problem. The Olympics have become less about celebrating athleticism and more about putting on a show, regardless of the consequences. Section 5. Memes, social media, and the fallout. If there's one thing the internet loves, it's turning disaster into entertainment. The Paris Olympics may have been a joke, but that didn't stop it from becoming a goldmine for memes, probably the best part about this Olympics, to be honest. But beyond the memes, social media played a crucial role in shaping the narrative around the Olympic Games. Athletes took to Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to share their experiences, both good and bad. But this also meant that the flaws and failures of the Olympics were broadcast to the entire world in real time. There was no hiding the disorganisation, the controversies, or the safety concerns anymore. Everything was out in the open for everyone to see. So, what does this mean for the future of the Olympics? Well, it's hard to say. On one hand, the Paris Games will likely go down in history as one of the most controversial and criticised Olympics in modern times, but on the other hand, it's possible that these issues will spark a much-needed conversation about the role of the Olympics in the 21st century. Are the Games still about celebrating the best of humanity, or have they become just another spectacle for the rich and powerful? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, the Paris Olympics has left a lot of people questioning whether the event is still worth all the hype. So, to recap, the Paris 2024 Olympics was a disaster on multiple fronts, from the chaotic and controversial opening ceremony to the poor treatment of athletes, the political overtones, and even the decision to allow a convicted child rapist to compete. It's clear that this event was anything but a celebration of global unity and sportsmanship. The Olympics were once a symbol of global unity and human excellence, but if the Paris 2024 Games were anything to go by, we might have to ask ourselves, is this still the pinnacle of sports, or just another reflection of a world that's losing its way? If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon for more content. As always guys, let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. But what did you guys think of the Paris Olympics? Was it a joke, a disaster, or something else entirely from that? Make sure to let me know. And I'll see you all in the next episode of Just My Thoughts.